Good morning, good morning, good morning. And what does the furniture say on a Friday? So far, so good. All you couch potatoes out there looking to talk shop here this morning. We've got a interesting show here for a Friday. It's been a while. And it's good to be back on the moon with you folks having a wholesome Friday. It's simply the best. If you're planning on getting some eats this weekend, why not try a little barbecue? We're here. We've got folks joining us from all over the world. This is the Magic the Gathering morning talk show and stock show where we talk prices of Magic cards, news, and there's some interesting news announcements, articles, and what's moving and shaking in the metagame of Magic the Gathering. But before we do that, let's just warm up a little bit. Here, we'll head on over to the Robo Rosewater site. We'll take a look at some AI-generated Magic cards here this morning to see what's new in the world of Robo Rosewater. If you've been here before, you know how it works. The card is playable any way whatsoever. We'll pass it. We'll give it a pass. You hear this sound, the sound of the dinger. Dango, a wild Brody appears out of nowhere. Morning, Mill Master. Nice to have you with us. And if the card's got gibberish on it whatsoever, we'll fail it. You'll hear the sound of the womp womp, maybe some excessive buzzing here this morning. We got Yellowmith. I can't even say this one, but it's got puppies on it. The Scarecrow, Yellowmith Sicidament. All right, it's a Scarecrow 2-1 for 1 red and 1. Tap to create a 1-1 white dog creature token. Seems okay. Nothing wrong with that. All right, doesn't seem too bad. I got a little coffee here this morning. Wherever you are, thanks for joining me here. Let's have a little sip while we get into some of these. Ethereum and Decimaster. A Vampire Soldier, 6/6 for 8 mana. Well, that's quite a cost. 1 blue and 7 for the flying 6/6. Whenever Ethereum Decimaster becomes tapped, target opponent gains 2 life and gains 2 life. Gains 2 life and gains 2 life. So gains 4 life, I suppose. It probably should have read target opponent gains 2 and you lose 2. 6/6 for 8 mana with a downside. When we're getting 5 4s for 3 mana with a double upside, this seems bad. So we're not gonna pass this. This can't go on. There's better cards out there. There's better for your sweater. And the bigger the better, the tighter the sweater, I always say. Seagate Sins. Sorcery, destroy target creature in blue for a blue and 2. This one, sorcery speed removal. Doesn't seem too bad. You again. You again. Nice to see you, Millmaster. It's you again. Seagate Sense. Nice art on this one. I think it's probably okay. It's a little bit overpriced. It could be an instant speed card, which would make it a little better, but nevertheless, a functional Magic card. So let's go. How about this one? Control of Confluation. Control of Confluation. Target creature gets +2/+2 till end of turn. All the flavor text you could ever ask for. It's got flavor for days. This is a green and 2 for the instant. Just a giant growth, but not as good. Okay, we'll take it. 3 mana +2/+2. A lot of better cards out there like Blossoming Defense, Giant Growth, Giganticize, to name a few. Control of the Confluation, another AI-generated special. And some Fungering Muck. I like it. Fungering along this morning. Each player draws 2 cards and loses 17 life for 5 mana. This could probably win you the game. It looks like a donut on the card, but I think it's actually a mushroom. So Fungering Muck, each player draws 2 cards and loses 17 life. Quite a powerful sorcery spell. Why not? Why not have a 17 point swing? all around the board for 5 mana. It should just destroy all creatures as well. Then it would be overpowered. But the Fungering Muck, it's unlike the Bubbling Muck. This one's Fungering along here this morning. And Bone the Hunt. All right, she doesn't like meat, but she sure likes the bone. The Hunt is an enchantment for 2 black and 2. When Bone of the Hunt enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life for each elf you control. Little elf synergy here. Whenever you cast a spell, if Bone of the Hunt is an enchantment, Bone of the Hunt becomes a 3/3 dog shaman creature. Okay, so you get this life gain, tribal synergy for elves. And then you do get a 3/3 creature out of it if you cast the spell. So kind of a more fallacious enchantment, the Bone of the Hunt. Why not? These magic cards are getting a little bit better as time goes on. Maybe the training of the AI starting to catch up. And Markov Avenger, the 5/5 dragon, for this is more like it. Hello, thank you very much. A green and 2 for a 5/5. Avenger can't be blocked by walls. That's what I'm talking about. We get 5/4s with a double upside. Why can't we have a 5/5 for 3 mana in dragon? It should fly, though. Doesn't fly. No flying, no crying about this one. We'll pass it. This is a grounded dragon. This is a walking dragon. This one will just walk in on the battlefield. It says he's a dragon, but got wings on him. Nevertheless, the Markov Avenger is a 5/5 for 3. Doesn't seem too bad. And the Night Shift Patrol, sort of where we left off last time. This is a 2/2 Vigi flying creature. Human Advisor gets +1/+1 as long as you committed a crime this morning. How many crimes have you committed this morning? Have you been embezzling funds from the public coffers? Perhaps you're part of the Night Shift Control. Night Shift Patrol, 2/2 for 3 mana. Why not? Seems like a good Boros card. Doesn't seem too bad. Come in, folks. Nice to have you with us, friends and friends of the channel. Tuning in this morning for some Magic the Gathering news. And I got some interesting news about some interesting brews here in the world of Magic the Gathering. The new commander, Hashaton, the Scarab God, making waves in the world of constructed commander play and CEDH. I've already seen that card posted with plenty of deck lists online. It sounds like this card's going to make some waves in the commander format. So if you haven't already studied up on how to play it or how to beat it, maybe now's the time. The pre-release date, I believe, is set for February. Where's this rue coming from? February 14th. For the release date. If you can get it on pre-order, this is the time to put in your pre-orders for any of the Ether Drift cards that you would like to have. But over and above that, there's been some interesting discussion about another Magic the Gathering movie. All right, have you heard of this? It's funny because there's been a few times when Magic the Gathering cinematic film movie has been announced, and then it gets a little bit underway under production, and then it seems to get canceled each and every time. Perhaps somebody will finally go through with it. But nevertheless, got an interesting new article here for you today. Magic the Gathering Action Cinematic Universe announced. Is it about time we got a Magic the Gathering movie? Good morning, Brody. Coach is here. Did some buzzing for you here this morning. You want to talk about Magic the Gathering movies? All right. Well, over recent years, Magic the Gathering players have felt that Magic's core intellectual property has been somewhat neglected. And while Wizards are still making in-universe sets, there's clearly been a push for Universe Beyond sets and Secret Layer drops, thankfully. And now it seems that WotC isn't giving up on its own IP anytime soon. In fact, far from that. Far be it from me to criticize the making of a Magic the Gathering movie. Would you watch it? Would you pay hard-earned money to go see a movie with Magic the Gathering's favorite planeswalkers? Only time will tell. Let's see if it makes it post-production, because the last couple of times there's been announcements of a Magic the Gathering movie, it has not actually come to fruition and been released. So it's going to be interesting to see that today's announcement was made, and it delivers the hope and dreams of many fans, not only a Magic the Gathering slated to get a live action movie, but an entire cinematic universe that's planned to follow. Magic lore hits the big screen, announced via the Command Zone. Hasbro Entertainment and Legendary Entertainment are teaming up to create a Magic live action movie. Music to my ears, right? Legendary Entertainment is responsible for some of the best fantasy movies in all the recent years, and the Godzilla movies, the award-winning Dune adaptations, were made by the studio, so many players cannot think of a more ideal partnership to bring the mysticism of Magic the Gathering universe to the big screen. While things start with a live-action movie, according to the Command Zone, it's just the beginning. Feature film will lead the charge, and then a television series and other content is to be developed in the universe beyond and the universe as it expands. It suggests that we could see a series of Magic shows that mirror something similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this would certainly bolster Magic's brand, bringing it in line with all the Universe Beyond crossovers that have been doing with other franchises. But what about an animated series? Well, we saw the advent of Avatar, The Last Airbender, making its way in an animated series, and then soon to be produced into a live action movie that turned out to be a flop. That one was remade as a series. Finally, I think they got it right, but not long ago, another Magic MTG show announcement was made. This one promised an animated Netflix series about Magic's most iconic characters. Interestingly enough, these two projects are apparently entirely different altogether. This was confirmed by Jamie Wong, member of the Command Zone, on Twitter shortly after the announcement was made. All right, got some of these buffoons here on the cover page. Okay, well, as stated by the folks for the Command Zone during the announcement, it simply suggests that the partnership between Hasbro Entertainment and Legendary Entertainment has been made. The partnership is trying to accomplish, that means, actual movie being announced like years away from hitting the big screen. How could it take 30 years, 31 years, to get a Magic Gathering movie? Oh, well, we don't have any trailer or any spoilers or any idea of what part of the multiverse and what planes will be based and circle around in film. But Magic hasn't exactly had a great track record with a big screen historically. Movies and animated series have been repeatedly announced and canceled in recent years, which certainly has many players question whether or not this movie will actually come to fruition. It could be the artistic creativity that prorogues the making of a Magic the Gathering major movie. Ultimately, the cinematic universe goes on as planned, and it could mean that restoring the previous balance between Magic's IP, the universe beyond, this will undeniably strengthen the solidity of Magic's characters and world building heavily into pop culture. As far as announcements go, we're off to a really good start. Only the future knows how this partnership between Hasbro and Legendary Entertainment is going to move. But players will be watching bated breath to find out whether or not this movie is actually going to go ahead in post production. So, what are your thoughts on opinions? Is it actually going to make it to big screen? Never has it ever. Or perhaps about time Magic the Gathering got its own live action movie. Who are going to star? Maybe the Gatewatch? Kind of hard to keep up with the direction that Wizards of the Coast is taking the game. So it's anybody's guess as to where they're going to be. Unplug my mic and then plug it back in. Hello and hi 3. How's the audio this morning? Audio's good? Sounds like it's working. Looks like it's working. Ben, nice to have you with us. Ben's friend of the channel here. All right. What else we got for you, folks, as far as news headlines? Well, we're talking about hash on, so there's interesting hidden gems for the Scarab's Fist. I'm going to have to take you over there. If you haven't heard of this commander yet, you better tune in because it's going to be a game-warping commander for the World Magic Gathering. Adam Berg's got an interesting article here, and I like the article by Adam Berg because it always makes me laugh, and it's quite funny when he puts pen to the paper or just tippity taps on the keyboard. Aether Drift just around the corner, so Hashiton Scarab's Fist is the first place amongst upcoming commanders. I did all right. I wanted to build this. I proxied it up a couple of weeks ago, took it to my play group, the fourth rate podmates, and I got a chance to test this deck and pilot it, a version of it. Now, some interesting fun facts about this commander is that it's broken. All right. It's an Esper commander, which is really desperately needed in the game of commander. A decent Esper commander has been long overdue, and this could be the one that comes out and wins you some games. This zombified wizard comes out as early as turn 2, and with any luck, you'll have to discard something big to turn it into a token on turn 3. So let's just take a look at Hashiton here, see what he does. I'm sure you folks already heard him, but there's some interesting parts about this card. It's now sitting at $17. I was able to get it for $5 on pre-order. Of course, that's not going to crack and ship until February 15th. But this Esper Commander is a 1/3 that costs 2 mana. So easy to cast. It's right up there with 2 mana threats. This is a kill on sight commander. In our play group, after I played it, I won a couple of games back to back. And the boys said, you know what, Brody? I think I'm sold on this Hashiton commander. It seems really good. Some of the lines of play that go well with this are going to be explained here shortly in just a few minutes. But it's got this interesting ability on it. It's not an activated ability. It's just a cost you can pay when you discard a creature card. You can pay a blue and 2 and create a tap zombie token as a copy of the discarded creature, except it's a 4/4 in addition to its being a zombie as its other types. So a little bit of a throwback to the Scarab God. This fella makes the 4/4 zombie tokens. Certainly interesting to see turnabout back to the days of Hour of Devastation and the Scarab God and making zombie tokens. So imagine Putrid Imp on turn 1, Hashiton on turn 2, and a token of Archon of Cruelty on turn 3. A lot of folks, hey Richie, how you doing, buddy? A lot of folks are saying the way to play this is to have cards in your deck like Jin Gitax's Core Augur, maybe a Consecrated Sphinx, any of the reanimate targets that you want to get out as early as turn 1 or 2. Hashiton is the way to make a deadly token copy of a board establishing game winning state. But I assure you there's other ways that this card works and are quite good. But these are some of the hidden gems and popular cards that we'd like to dig a little deeper on here this morning. Here's some picks that you might have overlooked as far as unappreciated cards goes. Shadowgrange Archfiend. All right, Adam's got this as a pick. He's big, he's bad. He's an 8/4. He's got claws that are twice as big as his booty, and this 8/4 is 7 mana demon that likes to chew up the biggest creature of each opponent and gain life in the process. On top of the card advantage, it's got Madness for a mere 3 mana and Not So mere 8 life. This 8/4 costs you a black and 6, but if you discard it, you can pay black and 2 and 8 life to cast it. So you can get double procs off this. When the Shadowgrange Archfiend enters the battlefield, each opponent sacks a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control, and you gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures sacrificed this way, something to offset the life cost, the life lost that happens when you try to play this. With 6 mana, you can openly discard this, make a token copy of Hashiton, and cast this demon for its madness cost. If you get rid of lots of threats, and you hopefully gain some life back. If that's not what you're going to get from meddling with zombies and demons together, this is for sure a good choice. Marnius Calgar. I keep seeing Marnius up on the MTG top 8 in the top decks, net decking with the stars. Marnius is a tier 1 commander, as it would be put. I'll admit it. And his dream has always been to become a 4/4 zombie token. After all, he likes tokens, and your commander turns him into one. He'll even draw a card himself, and good for you, Marnie. Early in the game, a 4/4 double strike can do a lot of damage. In the late game, you can always sink 6 mana into creating more tokens and drawing more cards. He does it all. That's why he needs a Nobel Prize in the Warhammer science. I assume Marnius, the 3/5 in the right Esper colors, double strike, master tactician. Whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, you get to draw a card. So that synergy works pretty well with Hashaton. And that's what we're talking about here today. Spymaster's Vault, here's a land card that might work well with the Hashaton build. Unlike Marty, Hashaton doesn't do it all. He doesn't have his own discard outlet, but we still love him anyways. To compensate, you'll want to play lots of the discard outlets, and if they don't cost much mana to activate, that's even better. All right, Spymaster's Vault. It's a land that enters the battlefield tapped unless you control the swamp. And you can tap it for a black or pay a black and tap it to target creature you control connives X, where X is the number of creatures that died this turn. Conniving means draw X cards, then discard X cards and put a 1/1 counter on that creature for each non-land card discarded this way. This card could be an auto include in the Hashaton deck, being that's the land that has a discard outlet right on a stick. All right. Celestis. Not that Esper is known for its mana ramping abilities. Sure, you want to play some mana rocks, but Hashaton being, but Hashaton not being green, paying for his multiple abilities each times in a turn would be a lot less difficult. The Celestis cost 3 cost mana rocks are a dime a dozen, and you don't sit on a very competitive spot on the mana curve costing 3. But with this little gem, we get so much more. All right, the Celestis, the legendary artifact, if it's not day or night, it becomes day as the Celestis enters the battlefield. You can tap it to add a mana of any color, and if it's night, you can pay 3 and tap it to become day, and otherwise it becomes night and activate as a sorcery. When day becomes night or night becomes day, you gain a life. You may draw a card, and if you do, discard a card. So another discard outlet on a stick here. This one's fairly cheap. Whenever it becomes day or night, you get to discard. If you're spending your turn discarding a pile of cards and paying for a token, it's easy to be active while also changing the game to night. Your opponents will probably be casting spells and switching it back to day, and in some incidental life gain and tapping for mana, pay for Hashaton's cost. The Celestis put an inordinate amount of work. Anvil of Bogernon, 1 card on the reserve list. This card, definitely a buy. I like this card. I've been picking it up for a couple of years. I think it's on a couple of copies. This 2 mana, somewhat of a Howling Mine effect, gives you skip the discard step for each player. So essentially, it's been errated to say each player gets no max hand size, but then it's got this bit of a Chains of Mephistopheles ability on it. During each player's draw phase, that player draws an additional card and then chooses and discards a card. So you get to draw an extra card and then pitch a card. Of course, that procs the Hashaton ability. If you want to pay the 3 mana on discarding to Anvil of Bogernon to make a token copy. It's a great example of a cheap card that gives you a discard every turn without asking for mana to activate it. It may look a little weird seeing that it gives everybody no max hand size, but it eliminates your discard phase, and you don't want to rely on that to get to 7 or 8 cards to get the U shot of Hashaton. This artifact comes down early, gives free discard. It filters through your deck, gives you some card selection so you're not clogged up, and it potentially creates some good will with their players so they don't want to target you. So those are your hidden gems this week. I like it. Let's talk synergy. So give me a second here. The Mossfield. Little Moxfield. There are some interesting lines of play to be made with Hashaton. The card that's really seems to be the card to play with it. We're going to take a look at the price on it. Is Lion's Eye Diamond. So let's take a look here. Line of play, because obvious answer is to use Lion's Eye Diamond to discard your hand and make a 3 mana to activate Hashaton. So that seems okay. But the line of play that I thought was quite spicy with Hashaton is the split second ability. So if you look at Hashaton's ability, it's not an activated ability. It costs that you can pay when you discard a card. So I'm just going to find a list here that I posted not too long ago, courtesy of Holden Pryo. Let's find it. All right, here we go. This deck list, courtesy of Holden Prio, Esper Zero Counterplay Hashaton EDH, a Holden Prio special. Why do we like this deck list? Well, it's got some abuse built into it. So we're going to take a look at the primer here just for a quick second. All right, the instant speed, completely uncounterable, uninteractable line once your library is gone. It looks very innocent, considering it only requires a board state of a commander and a Lion's Eye Diamond. The requirements for this deck are to have Hashaton, the Scarab's Fist in play, a Lion's Eye Diamond, and a Thassa's Oracle in hand. Now, you can also make this work with a copy of Leveler in hand because we're going to discard our hand to Lion's Eye Diamond. But any split second card in your hand and a way to dump your library, whether it's Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact, Leveler, plus 2 colorless mana and a blue, maybe Thought Lash or a card that exiles your library. If you're not using Leveler or Inverter of Truth, you can cast and resolve Tainted Pact or Demonic Consultation to dump your library. So with Hashaton on the battlefield, I like this deck because it uses a copy of Urza's Saga. Urza's Saga, quite a good land that allows you to go and get the Lion's Eye Diamond quite early in the game. So it's playing a copy of Urza's Saga. Urza's Saga. Where's the Saga? All right, Urza's Saga. No, Urza's Saga. Let's find the Urza's Saga. Urza's Saga? Urza's Saga. Here we go. Oh, what's up, y'all? Hot Dice. Nice to see you this morning. We got some brews going on here with Hashaton. So the Urza Saga, a land that procs, I think you're familiar with this one, this Enchantment Saga land that's been around for a while. It has this ability where each turn it after draw step, you get to put a lore counter on it. When it comes into play, you put the first one, it makes it tap for mana. The second ability lets you make a contract, but it's this third ability that works well with the Hashaton deck. Search your library for an artifact card with mana cost 0 or 1, put it onto the battlefield and shuffle. Goes to note that this is not casting, so it's very difficult to interact with because it just straight up puts it onto the battlefield. So you use the Urza Saga as another way to fetch a Lion's Eye Diamond if it's not in your hand. This is the 0 mana artifact that taps. It's a mana ability. Discard your hand, Lion's Eye Diamond, and sack Lion's Eye Diamond, make 3 mana of any color. Activate this ability whenever as a mana ability. Okay, so this may cause this commander to be very good. Okay, so here we go. Cast a split second card holding priority. After you've dumped your library on your opponent's turn using Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact or any of the cards that remove your library from the game, you can basically win from there. If your opponents are trying to win the game, you can at instant speed and uncounterably take control of the board and say, hey, I've got something to respond to, and instead win the game in response to your opponent trying to win. So you cast a split second after you've exiled your library. Let's imagine we've got Lion's Eye Diamond on the battlefield, Thassa's Oracle in hand, Hashaton sitting there, and you've managed to exile your own library during one of your opponent's turns. Cast any split second spell holding priority, hence the creator of this deck, Holden Prio. Use the mana ability of Lion's Eye Diamond to dump the Thoracle in the yard and make 3 blue mana for the use of the triggered ability from the commander Hashaton, and make a copy of Thassa's Oracle as a 4/4 zombie token. You get the enter the battlefield trigger with an empty library, and you'll win the game with split second on the stack. So if you take a look at split second, Angel's Grace, this is also in the deck. Angel's Grazie. So Angel's Grace, they're 1 mana card. So you need to dump your library. If you have the Leveler in hand with the Thassa's Oracle, you just need 6 mana to get this to happen. So just imagine we've got an empty library and we cast Split Second. Split Second says as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't play spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So Disclaimer, the Lion's Eye Diamond ability is a mana ability, so you'll be able to crack the Lion's Eye Diamond with the Angel's Grace on the stack or any other split second card like Sudden Spoiling. And then while this card is on the stack, your opponents can't cast spells. It basically takes them out of the game for casting spells. You crack the Lion's Eye Diamond, pitch the Thassa's Oracle to the graveyard, use the 3 mana to recur it as a zombie, and wham, shabam, just wham, bam, shabam, shablam, just like that. You've put your Thassa's Oracle win the game condition on the stack, all with split second, so your opponents have no time to respond. And that essentially wins you the game. So an inspirational deck. This deck is likely going to be one of the versions of Hashaton. If I look at this deck list, it doesn't have too many big fat fatties in it. It's got the Consecrated Sphinx. It's also got the Nezahal, the Primal Tide, a couple of 7 mana creatures, 6 and 7 mana creatures. Arguably, there's people who are going to want to try to turn 1 or turn 2 a big fat fatty off of Hashaton. So if you can turn 1 your Hashaton with the Lion's Eye Diamond, then you can discard your hand. Maybe you're going to discard a Consecrated Sphinx, a Grizzlebrand, Nezahal, or a Jin-Gitaxi's Core Augur to get that zombie token onto the battlefield as early as turn 1 or turn 2. That could be another line of play. I like the split second line that this also is privy to. So quite an interesting deck. Expect to see some more deck lists and brews with the Hashaton card. Hashaton the Scarab's Fist, currently sitting at $15. Let's see, what's the foil version? Foil version up to 19. All right. Sold out face to face. You can't find this on pre-order in Canada. If you were lucky enough to put an order in a week ago, you could probably get it from Card Kingdom or one of the states shops that are planning on doing some box breaks on opening day, which is February 14th. So the Hashaton Commander going to prove to be quite good. What do you folks think? What are you brewing from the new Aether Drift Commander set? Aether Drift. Anything you guys like? Anything that I missed? What's this? This seems to be the biggest going concern. Like I said, I did play a version of this card, this deck proxied up just to see how the line of play was. There was positive response from the play group. Folks seem to like it. The fact that it wins over split second seems like a pretty decent build. All right, let's get moving and let's get grooving here this morning. You hear that? What's that sound? Your movers and your shakers. Oh, we like the movers and the shakers. Hey, it's the big brain here. We're talking big brain plays this morning. Big brain commander plays here this morning. Nice to see you, Ed, the dual brain. Thanks for joining me here on the stock desk. We're going to take a look at your movers and the shakers for this week. We're going to do a recap of everything that's moving and grooving here. White Knight at the top of the pile. These beta cards seem to be putting in some work. They're slumping and bumping up to the top of the pile. We got Relentless Assault, Cyclopean Tomb, Taoist Mystic. What is that card? Can't be blocked by creatures with horsemanship. Black Knight, Lady of the Sun. Some of these Portal 3 Kingdoms cards making its way onto the movers and the shakers list here. Rasputin the Dreamweaver, some original legends from the legend set. Grim Lavamancer from Onslaught. Is that the set? And they know the Torment. It's making a comeback. This card is now again $25. Why is the Grim Lava Daddy moving up so much? This card was falling out of favor for the longest time. It was worth about 20 to $25, especially in burn as an alternate way to win the game. It sunk down to just about $2 or $3, but it looks like it's now seeing a resurgence in price back to the $25 level. Perhaps the foil version is going to command a couple of bucks more. That's like 51 for the foil version of the Grim Lava Daddy. So the Lava Daddy up at the top of the list, balance from Unlimited and Natural Selection. This is actually a decent card. This one's on the reserve list. It's basically gives you a bit of a brainstorm. For 1 green, you get to instantly look at the top 3 cards of any library and opt to rearrange those cards or shuffle that library so you can kind of set up your own deck or you can set up your opponent's deck. So these are the cards that are moving. And just like we like to discuss on Fridays, in time for F&M, if you're heading to F&M tonight, we're going to talk about the cards that'll be the talk of the town this evening. We're going to discuss price movements here for the last week. And if you can't bring a friend to Magic, bring a friend to Brody's. So you may want to receive a notification. Make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you can tune into the live stream when we're doing it. Number one on the list is up 273%. I looked at this card last week because I did see it moving on the Goldfish site. Sands of Time for 4 mana is an interesting card, and it's hard to imagine how this would be playable. It's 4 mana. It says each player skips their untap phase, and at the beginning of each player's turn, untap each tapped artifact, creature, or land he or she controls, and tap each untapped artifact, creature, or land he controls. So you get the opposite untap. Now, back when this card was printed in Vision, there was still use of mana burn early in the game. So if you had tapped out lands for mana that you didn't spend, you would take damage for it. So, I mean, the land untap ability didn't seem so good. But now in today's day and age, there is no mana burn. So you can just tap out all your lands. And then at the beginning of your turn, you get to untap everything. I definitely didn't expect Sands of Time to be on this list this week, but it's up to about $15. We're going to talk about some of the important facts of this card, the rare from Visions. It's also on the reserve list, and it makes each player skip their untap step. So when does something really weird. It untaps your mana rocks. It untaps anything that's tapped the previous turn, and anything that's untapped becomes tapped. So you have to simultaneously tap everything that is untapped and untap everything that's tapped. Since tapping is now a triggered ability, this has always been sort of a combo with Strionic Resonator. Copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose copies for target new targets for the copy, so you can get a double untap. But you can potentially win on the spot if you can make infinite mana. So Unstoppable Plan is a card that just got printed in blue and is coming out uh, in the Aether Drift set. It's had a little bit of chatter. Good morning. It's had a little bit of chatter online because people are looking for ways to abuse the Unstoppable Plan. At the beginning of your end step, untap all non-land permanents you control. It's kind of a throwback to another Wilderness Reclamation type card. The fact that it's in blue also makes it work with stasis. So if you want to play a prison deck and throw back to a mono blue version of stasis, which is players skip their untapped steps, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice stasis unless you pay a blue. The Stasis Lock deck is a prison deck that was popular in old school as well as some niche brews, but it's usually includes at least a couple of colors. Having Unstoppable Plan makes it viable in mono blue now that you can get an untapped step for all your non-land permanents, which makes you untap your mana rocks in order to pay for the stasis. Sands of Time also gives you an additional untapped ability during your beginning of your turn. So now the Unstoppable Plan has been released. I think there's some synergy to be found, and that is the reason why Sands of Time is up to about $15. You got Veteran Beast Rider. At the beginning of your end step, untap each creature control. Creature control get 1/1 until end of turn. It's in a Selesnya color combination, so that doesn't really help us too much in a mono blue build. But in Aether Drift, the Sands of Time and Unstoppable Plan is an enchantment that looks a lot like Dreaded Wilderness Reclamation, and this time you get to untap everything but your lands. So to be fair, I feel it's mostly a buyout of a reserve list card, and the synergy of the aforementioned cards is undeniable. But it's seriously doubt that this is actually going to get played a lot. And if you decide to play this in your commander deck, be prepared to lose some friends. These strategies generally depend on your play group. to not contribute, to have fun in the game. But if you're going to play stacks and you're going to play blue, the Unstoppable plan might be for you. Second on the list here of movers this week, Kozlik's return is up 130%. This Devoid Instant Speed card costs you a red and two. It's up to $6.90. The Eldrazi variant of Pyroclasm, it deals 2 damage to each creature. Whenever you cast an Eldrazi creature spell with mana cost 7 or greater, you may exile Kozlik's return from your graveyard. And if you do, Kozlik's return deals 5 damage to each creature. So a way to deal some damage to the creatures on the board. Only printed as a mythic in Oath of the Gatewatch. It received a reprint in Commander and Modern Masters 3 not too long after, and it spiked because Eldrazi is becoming popular again in Modern, and it's going to go up again, once again, you guessed it, because of popularity in Modern. Is anybody playing Modern? I don't know, but perhaps this is going to be something that we see more of. There's a, where's the instant speed? Instant speed. Kozlik's Command. This is another card, an Eldrazi instant. Tribal Eldrazi Kindred instant that's been on the move. This thing's been moving up in price because it's colorless. It can be played in any commander deck. It's got multiple modes on it. It costs you 2 colorless and X, and you get to choose to either creating the 0/1 Eldrazi spawn tokens. Of course, this works well in the leveler deck or a polymorph deck that gives you a couple of creatures to sacrifice, and then you can polymorph those into something better, even a Thassa's Oracle or a leveler or something that'll win you the game. You get to exile a creature with mana value X or less, or exile up to X target cards from graveyard. So it's got all these modes on it. This is another Eldrazi tribal instant that's been making headlines in the world. Number 3 on the list, up 56%, is the Emperor Bones. It's $4.62. Not too familiar, but let's read the card. It's black and 1 for a 2/2 that says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. Pay a black and 1 to adapt to, and whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Emperor Bones, put a creature card exiled with Emperor Bones onto the battlefield under your control with a finality counter on it. It gains haste, and sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Plenty of text on this card. I have a soft spot for reanimator cards, but the reanimation station with Hashaton, making your zombie tokens, making your reanimate targets all that better. We've seen several versions of the reanimate deck played in Legacy, now including an Orzhov version for a long time. But when we first see Emperor Bones, it's a likable card that can be used to abuse the graveyard. And it didn't really consider it for constructed play, but boy, was I wrong. This noble skeleton is seeing play in Legacy, even more so in Modern. So that's the reason for this card moving up in price. If you can get it for a cheaper price, pre-spike, I would suggest you do it if you like playing reanimate decks. This card is definitely an include. It's getting more and more popular, and not just in any modern deck, but the Blink deck has been popping up a lot weekly on the weekly. Last week we talked about this deck because of Recruit of the Guard, and 3 weeks ago because of Overlord of Baelmerk. And in the meantime, we've also seen Phalia, the Exuberant Shepherd, going up in price because of this reanimate Orzhov reanimate deck. Emperor Bones makes sure that creatures that have died or creatures that have been put into the graveyard with Overlord of Baelmerk find their way back onto the battlefield, even just for a little while. Being able to activate and adapt their ability at any time, so you can flicker a creature and get you back some extra triggers, or protect a creature from removal, will put some semi-counter shenanigans on it with the Aven Interrupter. Cheap pickups for the week. Swarm Yard Massacre, bottoming out at $4.85. It's been identified as a penny stock, courtesy of the stock desk. A feature card that's reached its bottom and is starting to make a consistent uptrend. It may be time to buy this card, pick it up. Lily in general, she was up over $15 not too long ago, just as far back as November. This card was well over $10. It's now drifted down to about the $5 mark. This seems like a buy. If you haven't picked it up already and you ever wanted to, now may be the time to get the 6-mana Lily. There is arguably better Lilies out there, but if you're playing zombie tribal, this is the general for you. You want to probably include this in a deck that takes advantage of zombies. And the Massacre Girl, Gnome Killer, also was an expensive card from the Murders of Karlov Manor set, is finally settling down. The Massacre Girl, Known Killer at about $8. Courtesy of Argan from the Stock Desk, I'd like to thank you for publishing this beautiful article of our movers and shakers so you know what's the talk of the town tonight. All right, well, it's Friday, February 7th. Wherever you folks are, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you like crack packs, full of stacks, and play a little bit of Magic Gathering, you've come to the right place. You can tune in here. What do you guys think about stick figure genre? I think even Mitsuru had bigger hits. Stick figure genre. Which genre is that? Yes. Genre? There's a new one, isn't there? Hard to say. All right, well, it's Friday. I'm going to bounce here this morning. Oh, thank you for tuning in. Mill Master, Richie Dubs, Hot Dice, Mr. Benson, the dual main coach in the house, and Mill Master friends. You guys have yourself a good day. Enjoy your weekend. And if you can get out, play a little bit of Magic the Gathering, make sure you do it.